is, being sent by Canadian Post, but it's being open because, the company contracts to bring all their mail is American company. So they, it goes through customs. So they want to open up every single package and letter. I don't know. I would be really upset with the government if they did that.
Yeah, why wouldn't you be? That's absurd. I tell you one thing, it makes you think twice before what you're writing or sending, I guess.
Yeah, you better be careful. An English newspaper apologizes to a man because they did a great obituary of him. The problem is he wasn't dead.
Oh, boy. That poor guy, they're putting him in the grave way before his time, huh? Wow.
Oh, yeah. And for your pet lovers out there, in Texas, of all places, there's a cat that was put in, private confinement. That's where they lock the cat in a cage. Well, the cat figures out how to get out. Now, when the cat gets out, it lets out all the animals in the shelter.
You make it sound like it was a prison for animals and the cat's in the hole and he got out and let his inmates out. That's what it sounds like. Jeez.
I don't know.
He's a cat burglar.
Yeah, but no, the cat is smart enough to, let the other animals out. So when the employees go home at night, the cat breaks out of its cell or cage and then releases all the animals.
He's a shifty one, I'll tell you. Yeah, that's good. Well, you know what? He figured it out. He outsmarted his captors.
Oh, yeah. Then an airline passenger got busted after his feet went, worldwide on Facebook. He was hanging his shoes, without his shoes, his dirty feet over the headrest.
Oh my goodness. This thing, this flight wasn't going from Florida to Tennessee or vice versa, was it? That's crazy.
Well, raccoons fall through a ceiling in a New York CVS store.
Well, that had to be a shocker. You imagine I was in CVS today, matter of fact. I couldn't imagine a raccoon coming through. Wow, that'd make you think twice about, buying some food there maybe, or even getting your medicine. Wow.
I don't know. And in Kansas, somehow a camel, a cow, and a donkey got out of wherever they were kept and was walking around the neighborhood.
I thought I was going to say they went to a bar, but I'll tell you, yeah, that would be something to see that trio floating around town. That's for sure. Jeez,
yeah,
a camel.
The hurricane the last hurricane to hit the Carolinas and all that stuff. I guess there was a whole bunch of horses and cattle that died from the hurricane. They drowned, but there was a group of cows that decided they weren't going to stay where the hurricane was hitting. And there was an island about 7 miles away. So they just swam to this private island, which is owned by, the government, parks. And they were found there just grazing on the grass.
Oh, good for them. I'm glad they survived. That reminds me, I remember when Katrina hit, there was all kinds of horses and dogs and even pigs I seen on roofs of houses. It was just terrible, but I'm glad they survived anyway and got away.
I'm surprised. I didn't think cows could swim that well, and let alone swim 7 miles.
Yeah, that is surprising. I mean, they're not real great swimmers, but I guess, God willing, they made it, and good for them.
Well, a man was attacked by a leopard on his motorcycle in India. Oh,
hey, I seen a video a few months ago in India. It was also India where a tiger came out and it tried to get a guy on a motorcycle or one of them mopeds away and just missed him. It just missed him. It was filmed. That was hairy. And so, yeah, I guess leopards same way. You got to watch where you're riding in India, that's for sure. There's some critters out there that get you.
Well, in the UK, a stork got out of the zoo and flew about 100 miles away. And people were thinking it was one of these creatures from the past, because a stork is a very big bird.
Yeah, we've talked about that, how we think because of the magnetic system. Birds are in areas that normally they're not in, and people are seeing them, and maybe hey, is that Mothman or whatever, misidentification. But that's a good scenario. What we kind of touch on sometimes. People see things out of place. What would you think?
I would, I'd be scared, but depending on time of the day, because you know what, you in the sky towards dusk, a bird can look either bigger or smaller depending on the distance and the ratio of everything. So I think a lot of people were thinking that some of these birds, could be prehistoric, but they're not. They're just not used to seeing cranes or storks or all these other big birds, and when they see them, they freak out.
You're absolutely right, and you touched on a very good point. The right time of day, especially at dusk or just a little past, against the lighted sky that's still dark. Yeah, you see something like that, it would shock you, definitely. I can see that.
A man in Florida excuses himself from his date at a restaurant to use the restroom. And when he sits down, he gets a surprise. A python bites his penis.
No.
A python came out of the toilet. And when the guy was sitting on it, somehow came up, came through. That would make me scared now to even sit on a John. Or a Jauntus.
I'm telling you, Florida's that's an invasive species. I mean, it's a common species now in Florida, and it's invasive because of all the hurricanes that set them free from zoos or circuses, and then all the people, turn them loose. They don't want them no more, and plus the hurricanes that maybe people's had them at pets, and now they're common in the swamps and the woods in Florida, and that's scary. And boy, when they come up in your sewer, especially at a restaurant, can you imagine a lawsuit? You go to a restaurant and you got a date, and then you got to say, well, I got to get this off me first. That's
okay.
Crazy.
Well, it didn't bite him in the penis; it bit him in the testicles.
I don't know what's worse. That's bad either way. Oh my!
Yeah,
goodness.
could you imagine screaming at the top of your voice? Oh, and they, one of the waiters come running there. Can I help you? Can I help you? Hey, somebody is grabbing me by that. You know what?
I gotta tell you. Listen, the teeth on those
they can bite. They can bite. The piranha, not a piranha, but I mean these snakes. They, besides swallowing pigs and humans and everything else, they can get their mouth open to. Could you imagine they could have just took those things right off?
Yeah, their teeth are angled backwards and their jaws locked. So I got to tell you, it reminds me of that scene of Something About Mary, Frank and Beans, because who had to come there and pry that snake off that poor guy? Oh my God!
Yeah, I don't. How would you get one of those? How would you get a python off of you? I mean, I've seen pictures. Like in India, for example, right? Somebody be tired, and they fall asleep next to a tree, and the next thing they know, they're half devoured by a python. They just kind of open up and just lodge their jaws.
Yeah,
so I mean, they can take down a big animal and consume it.
Yeah, in order to get that off, because of those teeth are angled backwards, you've got to get in there and pry, and then you got to push forward and back. I mean, that's a whole process. It reeks in pain. It just does.
Yeah, well, it's better than being eaten. I mean, could you imagine that guy could have been half eaten by one, or actually swallowed by one, and then, then the snake would have just. How could it be? I guess they can come through the sewer because you know what, it wouldn't. It couldn't have been a big python. It had to have been a pretty small one to be able to come through the sewer and then come through the toilet, because the hole of the toilet is only about 4 or 5 inches around.
Yeah, and actually, it's sad to say, but he's kind of blessed that it was a little python and not a rattlesnake, because I think it was just last month, a rattlesnake, I forget where it was, but it came up through a toilet, and luckily the guy that was about to sit down seen the head come up out of there. Actually, I seen a video of that, because it took him a while to get the rattlesnake out too, but that's scary, and when those bite you, don't matter where they bite you, you're in trouble.
Well, if you can't get medical help right away, or if you're allergic to it, because some people are allergic like to bees and stuff like that. If you're allergic to a bee sting or a hornet sting, you're going to be really allergic to, from what I read about, snake bites like rattlesnakes and stuff like that. So you get bit by one of those, it's in a matter of minutes, you're dead.
Right. And not only that, you have to identify exactly what kind of snake it was and then hope and pray that wherever you're at, local hospital, has that antidote on hand and they don't have to wait a long time to get it and that they have enough. There's a whole process here. Everything's got to fall into place. So, yeah, your life's in danger.
And one of our people on chat, Dreamland, just said something, free vasectomies. I just almost broke out laughing saying it. Maybe that restaurant should have that sign on the stall door. Enter at your own risk. Free vasectomies possible.
Yes, use the toilet at your own discretion. Jeez, that's too bad, man. You shouldn't have to, put a net over the toilet to go to the bathroom or something. My God.
I don't know. Make sitting down where you might not want to anymore.
I'm not even going to read what he put up next. You read it.
Oh, I don't know. I let me look and see what he said. Has he said anything more? Oh yeah, let's see. No, you did, but oh yeah.
Yeah.
My ex-wife probably would if you gave her enough money.
Boy. My goodness, I don't even know where to go with that. I know one thing that's definitely got to tarnish a restaurant's 5-star rating down to at least a 1. I would think with the old snake bite to the old lower section there. Jeez.
But you're sitting down, doing your business. The guy probably didn't even have a newspaper in his hand. And wouldn't you be surprised all of a sudden something kind of like it latches onto you?
I was just going to say that. Could you imagine the post-traumatic stress that's going to come with that from the rest of your life when you sit down in a toilet, even your own, especially a restaurant? You're like, could this be my last time sitting here, or am I going to get bit? The shock and all of that is just horrendous. I got to tell you, I know I'm laughing, but boy, that's rotten.
I would be suing that restaurant for millions of dollars because you know what? It could affect the guy's performance because face it, if you're saying that their teeth are backwards and it grabbed onto them, okay? The time they got them jaws open up to, and figured out how to do it. I mean, by the time the paramedics come, they probably swallowed more than the testicles at that point. But I mean, could you imagine? It means a new word. You remember like that mortician that had jars and jars and jars of penises?
Yeah, I got to tell you, I guess the nickname for that snake would be Nutcracker. I mean, I'll tell you what.
No, not Nutcracker, Nutbreaker.
My God, that poor guy got, that definitely ruined his date. I would say that date that night kind of went south. I mean, where can you go from that? I got to go besides the hospital. Geez.
Yeah, and how do you explain going to the hospital? Oh, well, could you imagine half the snake attached and going to the hospital?
I am telling you. Oh, it's about the best thing you do is probably, I hate to say it, you have to kill a snake. I mean, they're a evasive animal anyway, but they get that thing off because, man, when they bite, they clamp and their teeth are angled backwards. That's the bad part because they're made to, when they bite, so it can get away. And then they wrap around you and crush you.
Well, yeah. So, remember I told you one of my sons, when he was a kid, they were playing at a creek and they found a gardener snake and one kid threw it and it attached onto my kid. And we had to take him to the hospital and have the snake, removed because it bit and wouldn't let go. Hey, it's time for break. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Think about it. Watch when you sit down in places that not even your own house might not be safe. So if you have pythons where you live, be careful. We'll be back.
quest for some significance.